This is a story written by user shortlandryan as a response to a writing prompt created by user Reddit Judge Referee. The prompt reads, "It's 3 a.m. An official phone alert wakes you up. It says, 'Do not look at the moon.' You have hundreds of notifications. Hundreds of random numbers are sending, 'It's a beautiful night tonight. Look outside.'" Andrew nearly snarled as his phone chimed for what seemed to be the upteenth time. His shift at the warehouse ended only a few hours ago, and it was like chickens running around with their heads chopped off whenever he left. It was a rare delight to encounter the nights that he was actually permitted to sleep through the night. On top of the texts that were just brimming with simple incompetency, the morons that lit up his phone in the middle of the night always seemed to wake up his wife, Isabel, who suffered from insomnia to begin with. The raise Andrew agreed to that stated he kept his ringer on for these occasions never seemed worth it when he saw Isabel the next day, curled up in the guest room with dark circles under her eyes from her attempts to get away from the constant chiming. Andrew rubbed a hand over her eyes to clear them, trying to understand the ridiculous amount of messages, but he must have been more tired than he thought since they didn't make sense. He quickly scrolled through the message previews, finding that they all seemed to follow the same pattern. To look at the moon. The moon? Why? It was like a shot to his adrenaline when he saw that some of the messages were coming from Isabel's phone. He shot up from bed, seeing the other side empty, and jumped to his feet. "Hun, what's going on?" Andrew questioned, still scrolling through his phone while walking towards the guest room. The room was at the end of the hallway and the door was wide open. He could see Isabel standing in the middle of the room, arms down by her side and phone clutched in her hand as she gazed out the window. As he grew closer, he could see that she was shaking. "Belle, honey, what's wrong? Why?" Isabel's body whipped toward him and Andrew couldn't help himself. He froze in place. She ran and shoved her body into the door, slamming it shut and locking it in place. The speed was all wrong, though. Andrew had never seen her move that fast. It was insane. It was inhuman. His own body started to tremble when he remembered her eyes. Her pupils were dilated and not a single bit of the green irises he loved so much were left. He was just about to ram his own body into the door, to beg her to let him in and make her explain what is happening. But then she started sobbing. "Andrew, you need to run. You need to hide. I'm so sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Run, Andrew, whatever you do, don't look at the moon." Andrew started pounding his fists on the door and trying to shove his weight against it, but she must have blocked it with something. Despite his shouting and his pleading to be let in, his forgotten phone on the hallway floor seemed to crack through the commotion as the alarms of the emergency alert system distracted him for just a moment. The robotic voice started to play from his phone automatically. "Warning, this is not a test. This is an emergency alert. Do not look at the moon. Warning, this is not a test." Andrew thought his distress was at its peak. Nothing was making sense, and he just needed to get Isabel so they could deal with this together. He just needed to... Her screams started, and it struck him cold to the very center of his being. He began pounding and kicking at the door until it gave way under his body. Isabel was on the floor, writhing in the moonlight. Andrew couldn't help it. His knees buckled, and he emptied the contents of his stomach right where he stood. Isabel's body was bent at every wrong angle possible, but she wasn't screaming anymore. Her head snapped in his direction with that ungodly speed again. Bathed in the moon's light and pupils still completely dilated, she smiled up at him as if every bone in her body wasn't broken. In the same voice she used to soothe him time after time, she whispered, "Look at the moon, Andrew.